Hello, world. Thank you so much for joining us on the Leaders Unfiltered podcast. Boy, oh boy, do we have a show in store for you guys today. I am your host, Angela Alberty, and I have to take a quick moment to fangirl for a second because I am interviewing the one, the only, Ursula Williams. Ursula, not to sound too creepy, but I have followed you for most of my career. And we have become friends over the last couple of years, and I am just so excited to be able to interview you. I think it's exciting to not only bring SIA onto our show, it's I think one of the pillars that we follow within this industry. I always equate it to like what Gartner is to technology, SIA is to the staffing and contract labor space. So it is humbling to be able to bring on the SIA name, but also you and how you accompany that and what you have done for the SIA organization over the last few years. So thank you so much for being on our show today.
Well, thank you. It's all mutual. I've been following you. Congratulations on your new role, CEO of the organization. No surprise, well earned, well deserved. I love that you understand us and you follow us and you know what we do and what we're in it for.
Yes.
Because, when you look around our organization and the people that we have, they truly are there to make the world of work better and to serve all the different customers across our supply chain with the information they need. Our founder of our organization actually was with Gartner, and that was part of the spin out of our
Wow, I didn't know that. Look at that, fun fact. Okay, so there's that similarity there and what you guys have done to this space. I remember when I walked into this industry, it must have been like 2012, 2013. I was just fresh out of school and I was in marketing and I was like, okay, acronym soup. I've got to learn them all. SIA, ASA, and BLS were like the ones that I would go to. And it's been just ingrained in me to get the daily news updates, to get the monthly reports, to get the specialized reports. So thank you guys for everything that you're doing and really you stepping in as president. And I know that you've done a lot to lead the charge, and especially during, the ebbs and flows of the industry and the world. I think that we can definitely uncover some of that. But, we have a lot to unpack today and we couldn't be more excited to have you on.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. So there's a lot that's happening in the world right now, especially in the state of staffing and really how we think about how work is going to be procured in the next 5 years and how it's been in the last 5 years and what the pandemic has done. I mean, it's almost like we've been flipped on our head a couple of times here. And I love what you guys are doing leading up to September and what we have kicking off the event season and everything with CollaborationX. Maybe you want to just let us know and let the industry know the changes that we can expect this event season and really what's prompted the need to build a new show around CollaborationX.
Oh, I would love that. So we really have been flipped on our head. I mean, it has been 5 years of complete, chaos. But as we often talk about, the staffing industry is so resilient. The leaders in this business, they turn, never let a good crisis go to waste. They seem to turn chaos into order, and they just keep moving forward and they keep getting it done. But it really has been an ever-changing time. For CollaborationX, what really came out of that was formally we did collaboration in the gig economy. And that particular conference was really designed to be around some technology, but mostly around the way the supply chain works. So back in the day when that came on was probably my second year of being here. I think it was 2016, 17. And we were getting a lot of questions from our customers around the MSP VMS space. So I came out of the business prior to SIA. My entire career was in staffing.
Right.
And it was interesting to me because I was with some pretty large organizations and they were very far along in their journey around large accounts and VMS and MSP, but so many companies were not. And so they were struggling with it and they kept wanting information. We had our CCWP training course that was originally for the enterprise side. Yes, you are.
Yeah,
and but then we said, you know what? Let's bring some of the staffing managers, executives, recruiters in to better understand it, so we can speak this common language and people could understand it. But as a result of that, we decided let's do this CollaborationX and let's talk a lot about the different technologies and the how an MSP works. And we have, remember, the enterprise buyer as part of our supply chain and our membership.
Right.
So they were there and everyone was there. We were talking through. And at the time, talent platforms were really a thing, right? Upwork and TopTal and Fiverr. And so we thought, you know what, we need to start talking about platforms, and then staffing platforms. Like, will staffing companies start to adapt and adopt to this technology and to allow people to work that way and hiring managers to hire that way? So then that became the really big thing. Then the pandemic came, then we came back, and it was really about remote work and more gig workers.
Yeah.
And now we look at it and we're like, wait a minute, you're like, it's all about automation, technology, AI. It's still platforms. It's still different forms of working. It's still about, all of the, non-full-time work and how that work gets done. A lot of our council and our enterprise buyers they want to go global with their programs, and it's difficult to go global with their programs. Mm-hmm. So they've been able to leverage a lot of the services that are in the workforce solutions ecosystem to do it better.
Yes.
And we just get so many questions about AI. All of our surveys, I think I was sharing at one point, we just finished our pulse survey across the board in every staffing segment that we covered. The leaders, one of their 3 top priorities is around AI. That's what they see as an opportunity to improve their business. Mm-hmm. And they want to know more about it. And they're
it's
curious.
It's almost the Wild West right now.
It's the Wild West. And it's
how
so
do you practice
fun.
it? How do you govern it? How do you implement it? How do you change manage it? And how do you adopt it successfully? It's so exciting. And I love what you guys are doing. I am so excited to be on a panel at CollaborationX as well with some large EOR players when it comes to going global and the necessitated force it is to have a global strategy, response strategy with how work is procured. So it is an exciting time, and I can't wait to see how things shake out in September when we get all of these minds together and start to really, address relentlessly, what does this AI and automation train look like? So before we get into the AI and automation, you mentioned a couple of things at the top half of your response in terms of who you were before SIA. And I know that you mentioned MSP and VMS, but I would love for the audience to know pre-SIA Ursula and what led you to this point in your career and everything that you've done within this ecosystem that brought you to SIA.
Oh, I love that. It's long, and it's interesting, and it was like such an incredible journey, and it never ever felt like work. It always felt like a journey. Like you, I was a client of SIA. I was an avid reader of everything that was produced, and I was so interested in the business. But right out of college, I was recruited to a job at a company that a lot of people know about, Apple, and I was extremely excited about it. Took the summer off, got down to the job, and nobody really knew who I was. And it was a little shocking because I thought there was a group of us and we all had interviewed on campus and we were going to go down there. And I think then they sent me to this office down the street, and it was called Audia. I was like, okay, that must be their HR office. I don't know what Audia is. So drove down to this office, and there were these amazing, dynamic, professional, outgoing individuals that they did explain to me that they weren't Apple and they weren't the HR department, that they were a staffing company, which I had no idea what that was.
So you were finding out on the spot.
I actually was not an employee of Apple. I was offered a job that I could be a payrolled employee of Apple, which I had no idea. I didn't know what that meant either, but I remember thinking, I am going to work really hard. I'm going to get paid. And you know what? We're going to figure this out. Well, the more that started to occur, the more I realized, you know who I really liked? I really liked the people at Audia. I really liked how they handled me. I really liked how they were talking to me about my career and talking to me about
this intuition you had, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, so what do you all do all day? And they were talking about all these dynamic companies that they worked for, and they found people and I love sports. And I'm like, they're like sports agents. Like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. And it was, by the way, hopping. And
Yeah.
the phones were ringing and they were talking to each other and they were coming in and out of
Interviews,
interview
right.
rooms. That was my thing.
Yes.
So fast forward, they ended up recruiting me and I was really happy with it. Their corporate office at the time was in Menlo Park, California. And I had said, ultimately, that's really what I wanted to do, but I wanted to learn the business. So I did every role that you can possibly do in a branch. And then and including like we were an automated branch. They used to tell me, we used to do this on paper. I'm like, really? I think, yes, wow. We were
They all were automated before automation. Yeah.
we were high performing. We won all the awards. We went to the president's clubs. And it was really an addictive kind of environment. And it was top notch. And so I eventually did go over to corporate. I did quite a few corporate jobs. And then one day, somebody who was an former employee there, who I actually didn't cross paths with, she was very highly regarded, one of the executives, had a recruiter call me and she wanted to meet with me. And I got the sense it was for an interview. And I remember thinking, this is my loyalty, Angela. I remember thinking to myself, I can't interview while I have a job, so I'm going to take PTO. I'm taking the day off. Like that wasn't obvious.
The moral compass is alleviated here, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not doing this. But fast forward, after 8 hours, I think I was like, you know what? I love this. It was a group, 3 women who had really run big operations, had scaled nationally. They were starting up. It was finance and accounting, which I was not ever really a part of in staffing. But I love that professional element of it. And just, we were going to go wild and we were going to expand this company and we were all going to work hard and we were going to make a ton of money and have a lot of fun. And we did. And, I probably stayed there for, 12 years. We grew it nationally. We franchised. We bought companies. We sold companies. We were bought by companies. Companies bought those companies. I progressed through the executive team and ran the company and corporate and that kind of thing. And then ultimately Randstad acquired that Leader and Select, which there were, I think, hundreds of different brands. So that brand went over and then I became part of the Randstad team.
Wow.
Yeah. And
you're a top 5 global staffing.
Right. I mean, to think about, there's so many great staffing organizations, but for me to have time in Audia and to have time in a startup and then to have which is a deco, by the way, now, and to have the startup and to grow that to the level that we grew it.
Oh, so the startup is a deco now, or
no, the startup, what is now part of Randstad.
Randstad. Wow.
Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, I know. And so I always say I had 17 jobs, 2 employers over 23 years.
This is so funny. But 17 jobs, 2 employers.
It really positioned me well for SIA because I did a lot of everything. We traveled internationally. We worked internationally. We worked across the country. We worked in different sectors and segments. We worked in corporate. We worked in sales. We worked in recruitment, we worked in automation, and to be able to have that many experiences to build on is a pretty great opportunity.
Yeah. And think about that opportunity now. We hear a lot about how quickly the pace of technology is moving, but what AI has done over the last 24 months of our lives puts us into the brink of an absolutely new era. And I don't know if most of us understand the depth and scope of what we are walking into and what our children are walking into and what their children and how life is going to be vastly changing over the next 5 to 10 years, which is why it's so exciting to see where where you've come from, but also when I had a chance to just get to know you and leading up to today's podcast, where you think this plane is going. So what's interesting is that as part of today's show, we know one thing for sure. We're probably going to have buyers listening in on today's show, and we're certainly going to have staffing firms listening on today's show. So I'd love, or even just the intermediary audience, right?
Yeah.
The platform players, the independent recruiters, the staffing firms, the buyers on small to medium size. I think we're going to have a very good amount of diverse listeners on today's show. I want you to give us your take on what AI and automation is doing. And let's think about it pros and cons. What's the biggest opportunity? What's the biggest risk as we tap into what the future looks like?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep it in staffing because I could go off on healthcare and how
Oh,
it's
yeah.
going to solve so many things. But
Telemedicine doesn't know what hit them.
yeah. But, in staffing, I think the biggest opportunity is to allow organizations to reimagine how the work gets done in their office, to really be able to pull out all these inefficiencies that happen across the staffing process, and to allow the people that are in the office to do more, enjoy their job more, make more money at their job, and do the things that really they can do, right? So, AI should solve for problems, and problems are in inefficient processes. Problems exist in repetitive processes for me, right? And so I think that in a staffing operation, it's so great because if the automation can do some, talent acquisition into my database, if it can do some matching, if it can give me a short list, and maybe, by the way, depending on how my business as a leader, how I've structured it, maybe I want it to go straight to a VMS. Maybe I don't want the recruiter to stop and shortlist, but that all is so time consuming, and it will allow for better outcomes, right? So if we can use the AI, if we can solve problems with it, I think problems are all around repetitive things and inefficiencies. If we can help eliminate those, which, by the way, are the things that people don't like to do. People like to do the things that are challenging, that develop their brain, that give them purpose, that give them fulfillment. I used to have to do all the time cards, and I remember thinking, yesterday I just placed the CFO at Levi Strauss, and today I'm doing the time cards. Like I just
today I'm facing time, baby.
Right, but that's the range of what you
Totally.
could be dealing with, right? And so,
Right.
or calling every single person to make sure that they made it to their assignment, or the extension calling, which I probably wasn't good at because I had 55 of them to do when I was clocking through, and I was great at those and the people part, but like all that data entry and making sure it got back into the system, like it's a lot. And the systems can do that. AI can do that for us, right? Like, so I just think that it's so efficient. What I also think is really cool is I kind of think it levels the playing field a little bit. When I went to startup, there were so many things we couldn't do. We couldn't afford to do. Every time we had an idea, it translated into, well, if we could hire 3 more people, well, if we had another person, well, and then you get stymied because then they'd look at me and they'd be like, can you generate another $500,000? And I'd be like, okay, so I can only get investment money if I can sell more, but I can't sell more because I need more salespeople.
Yeah, and it was a reference here, huh?
Right? Like that's what businesses are struggling with. And so if we can use AI in a smart way to power our business and then have our talented people do the things that they're best at doing, I just think that it provides us so much opportunity.
Yeah, and I would totally agree. There is something, part of it is just considering the operational and tech stack needed to oversee life cycle of contract labor subject to locality and the customer that you're servicing, right? And statutory requirements. Let's not forget about that. So there's considerable oversight, which lends to this highly administrative, highly burdensome, monotonous type of work that now we are really leveling, like you said, the playing field when it comes to this accelerated form and path to productivity. And I think that there's certainly a lot of benefit to that. And when you hear critics of automation or what AI enablement can do, oftentimes it's that human-centric quality that can be removed. when some of the, very other critics could say, actually, it's a way to complement human-centric and consultative aspects of recruiting. Can you give just some top of mind examples of what's your take on it and how you think we need to preserve that human aspect within this very human-centric industry?
Yeah. So I'll give you two things. I was reading recently, it was a voice automation product for staffing, and it was integrated into a 3-shift type business. And the most activity that it had was at 1 a.m. And the reason for the 1 a.m. was the workers that were getting off at midnight, they'd get home, maybe they'd have a bite to eat, and then they'd get on the app to update their time, to ask a question, to say their job had ended, their job was starting, but the system got hit in the most unbelievable way. Some people were redeployed because they would have another job and they would go. Imagine that without that product available. I always wanted my team to work 3 shifts and weekends. But they were like, no. But I thought, but wait a minute, why not? Like, we're working with professionals. They're off on Saturday and Sunday. What a great day to interview. But I think it's an example of, right? I was like, we can outperform all the competitors because no one's working weekends and has a 3rd shift or even a 2nd shift. Right. I was like, this is great. I don't have to get a bigger office. I'm like, just clean off your desk at 5 and bring it in the next shift.
There you go.
But now technology can do that for us. And that worker who has been up probably all day and through that shift and now is finally home to go to sleep, like they're going to wake up the next day. They got to deal with life, get back to work. So when exactly are they going to talk to their recruiter? When exactly are they going to look for another job? When are they going to say that their paycheck didn't arrive or something went wrong, right? So I love that part of what it can do more in a self-service and it goes. Mm-hmm. On the human element side of it, jobs are right up there with the most stressful life events, right? Yeah. Marriage, divorce, death. Job change ranks high. Why? Our identities are tied around our jobs. Our friendships are often tied around our jobs, our joy, our financial security. All of these things that are tied around our jobs are at risk when we're going for either we've lost a job or we're just deciding to go for a new job. So it's incredibly stressful. I don't think AI is today anyway, is that going to replace that recruiter on the call, walking that through with you, talking about that company, truly about that company that you're thinking about going to and how that works for you and how does that work with the things that you value and are important to you? I think that's where the heart comes in, like really helping people that are trying to decide if that's the job for them, or even just when they're on that job, helping them through challenges. Take even just negotiating pay rate. I think there was a stat I read not too long ago, 20% of people negotiate 20 to 25% their compensation. People are terrified to manage to ask for money. It's confrontational. They're worried they're going to upset they're kind of in this romance period, of being hired and dating kind of thing. They're afraid they're going to offend. And so they don't ask. A $20,000 mistake over 5 years is $100,000. Right? It's substantial. But so I think that when it comes back to the heart of it all, there are these places where our recruiters can plug in that really help the people that we're working with. It helps the hiring managers that we're working with. And you know what? It's fulfilling. That's hard. That's challenging. Doing time cards every Wednesday is really repetitive. Sometimes it might feel good just because it's I can, but you could take care of that. That's automation. That's not, that isn't challenging really. So, I think those are a couple extreme examples around, the automation helping that shift worker because there isn't a recruiter around at that moment. and that person needs peace of mind to move on. And then the areas where a recruiter can come in and really help, really be consultative, really be there for that individual, really be there for that hiring manager, understanding what's important to the two of them, helping in a crisis. Like that's just automatic, and you're there and you get it done. So, I mean, that would probably be one of my examples right there.
I love that. And you think about that shift worker and the amount of oversight it takes to get them. And think about the tenfold reverberating effect it has when it's servicing such a critical part of our society, like a hospital system, right? Or a business critical function, or a project that's about to be at a deadline. So there's so much value to that. And I never really thought about how life-changing of an event it is really when it comes to your job. I always, that what we do is special because it's offering this way to uplift a person's life trajectory, but there's something truly sacred to that. And that consultative effect on being able to recruit and build your talent pool is such a vital part of it all. So I love the way that you position it, because it absolutely allows the recruitment team, or even, the sales team, to focus on that relationship and to be enabled and empowered through some of the other administrative tasks that maybe have been alleviated from them, like the time cards that we're collecting on a weekly basis. So it makes a lot of sense. But, there's also this different value proposition, right? In the mind of a staffing agency or recruiting agency owner, there is an opportunity to rebrand, right? Or think about how the incorporation of how some of these elements can position them more strongly within the market. What's your take on that?
I think it's really dynamic. First of all, I think that when you do something that's cutting edge and you do it right, and you don't do it out of the character of your brand, people today, it has some sizzle. People today kind of like it. They kind of expect it. It's really terrific. I think what worries me a little bit on AI is this commodity. I don't think staffing companies should be like a commodity. Now they all have this technology and they're all looking the same. I think it's really important. You as a leader, as a business owner, you have to decide, what's your value proposition? How do you want your service to come through? What's important to you? What kind of culture do you want, right? How much do you want a hands-on and a hands-off? And maybe it's not one or the other. It depends. It depends on the types of accounts that you have and the talent that you're working with, and you can set up your organizational structure that way. So, I get worried when sometimes it like any automation, like, okay, come bring in the automation, got it. And then it's like your customers are confused, your employees are confused, you're confused, like everything's just hard, right? So, again, I think that when you go to rebrand or to do it different, or even to start to look at AI, really, and there's a lot written about this, really stop and say, what is it that you want your business to be? And then you can integrate the AI to do that for you, right? If you're in a high volume business that has 3 shifts, you're like, oh yeah, I want this automation that needs to hum. I'll give you a fun fact. The segment in staffing that was the slowest to integrate into any kind of like a staffing platform was IT. But often the companies that were developing would come to us and they would be like, hey, so IT. And when they found out, actually, IT assignments are longer than some of your assignments in like a light industrial, or even in some of the healthcare areas. It's 1 shift. So it's not 3 shifts.
Yep.
Right. And they just didn't adopt as fast as some of the things in commercial, light industrial, and healthcare. And you could begin to understand why, right?
Yes.
Because it's just that nature of the speed in which it was operating. So I think it's really important, again, back on the, how do you reposition? What do? You got to start with your strategy and who you are and who you serve. What's your talent population? What are your customers? And what do you want your business to be? And then you can begin and to layer that in around your processes. What I would say not to do, like, be really careful. Don't just go automate what you have today, but more automate, because this is this opportunity to really break apart.
So true.
Right? Jobs. Like
So
I keep joking about the things. I'm like, okay, so I took the president's job in like the weirdest staffing economy ever, right? And like we've got this technology, which is so exciting. But internally, SIA is a pretty great company. We have an amazing culture. We have a lot of employees that have a lot of tenure. I've had 6 get into the over 20 plus, and they've all wanted to retire under my watch. And I'm like, in a great way.
That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other podcast episode. How Ursula survived the pandemic.
They told me they were retiring, and I begged them to stay longer. But you know what's interesting in this breaking apart the jobs?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I could hire one person to replace them. They did different elements of jobs. It would have taken 5 different people. Wow. So we had to take their role that they kind of created, because more started coming their way over 20 years, and we had to break it and parse it out. We have automation doing some of those jobs today. So, and that would not have ever happened had I not been forced by like these really strong people saying, okay, I'm pulling out now, and me going, there isn't a person in the world that could do that job. So break apart your processes. Think, what do you want to be? How do your customers engage with you? What's your employee, who can do what, and how are you structured? But what do you want to be? And then build your automation into that, including your roles and your jobs that you do.
I love that. It's you have the opportunity to take 2 steps back before you take that step forward. And that 2 steps back consists of how you're going to position yourself, what is going to be a differentiator within your specific industry, and what is unique about that industry that can enhance or can be enhanced by certain automation features. So that's pretty powerful. And it's actually been this theme that I feel like has been hitting me all week. And I think about, all of the different vendors that are within this space, or the newer partners that are, taking on all segments of the service that they can handle, certain automation players out there that are unique for just onboarding in light industrial, right? Or as an example. So how do you decipher, let's say you have your value proposition, you know what your positioning needs to be, and now you're facing, and I think CollaborationX is going to be a fantastic opportunity for us to see what's new and what's out there. But you're almost facing a myriad of options, right? What's your take around the marketplace, where to tap into it, and maybe even some of the partnerships that we're seeing in this space that really work to shape the future?
That's such good questions. I mean, I think if I was a leader, I would be meeting with as many good like suppliers in this area as I could. Like I probably meet with 4 or 5 companies a week, just myself, because I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to grasp, and I'm trying to get ideas. I think you got to start with your problems though. What are you solving for? Because they all look good. Like it's incredible. Like, when you walk in and you start to see what everyone can do, what they all do, and what is your problem? I think is one thing that I really say to people, be careful. Cause like you go in the store and you want to buy it all, but what did you come here looking for? Right. So like, what is your problem kind of thing? And, I think when what we hear from our customers is, while AI is a top priority and they absolutely have to figure out what to do, the majority of them don't know what to do. So they're kind of stymied, and there's so many solutions, and it's moving so fast, and every day more solutions pop up. What we hear also is sometimes they don't know that the solution to their problem might already exist in the technology they have. But, it's so exciting. And I'll tell you, all these new organizations that have AI in them, in our ecosystem, they're really getting good at marketing. I mean, it's exciting, because I've always thought over the years, staffing wasn't that great about marketing. I mean, I think there's companies that do it great, but
Yeah.
it's costly, right? And so there's companies that just couldn't afford to do a lot of it. These new AI companies, that they're pretty great at it, but it's confusing if you're trying to decide to make a buy. So, again, start with your problem, start with your existing vendors that you have and your partners. Like, it's always the other partner trying to get you, but are you giving your existing partner the same amount of time? Because you really should find out, because guess what? You're going to have integrations. You're going to have to somehow or another be able, the new group that you're bringing in, and if you're going to have another technology that's feeding that, it's going to be important. And the data is paramount. So the data, you have to have data readiness, and you have to be able to have transfers of data, or agents coming in, and depending on how this is structured. And if you're not thinking about how all that is going to come together, and more importantly, guess what? The providers that are providing it, they're thinking about it, because they all want to be successful, and they want to lean in and help. And I think that's when we think about collaboration, it's going to require a lot of coming together to really be able to move forward. What no one wants is a bunch of waste. Like, all of the technology companies would love to acquire a new customer. They don't want that implementation to fail. They just really don't, right? So I think that it's around, we want this all to work, and we have to come together. And again, all that data, everything that has to work together, collaboration is going to be completely essential. And we've seen more and more great collaboration across the workforce solution ecosystem in the last, I think the pandemic kind of put it on fast forward. Everyone was just leaning in and helping. But it's so terrific to see. I'll give you an example. The VMS companies, typically when a program is, let's say it's not first gen, when a program is changing their technology and they're going to another one, those two teams, the team that's offboarding and the team that's onboarding, they have to work so closely together. And they've told me, and by the way, we want to, because it's doing the right thing. But also, while that's going on, trust me, tomorrow we're going to get the call. And, while we might be winning this one from this one, tomorrow, someone else is winning one from us. Like, so everybody wants to play the way that, again, great people, and they're going to behave the way they should behave. But it's talk about collaboration.
Right.
That's pretty amazing, but they get it. They know, what, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And I think that there's something so essential when you're looking at the landscape and knowing how, I don't know, the word that comes to mind is saturated, right? It can be, it can feel, but it's also simplifying it to what your needs are. My priority is going to be speed to market, budget, and then, build or buy, right? If you have those three questions answered, you can really start to understand and whittle down your options here and understand what your existing tech stack is looking at. And as a recruiting agency, what does our ATS system do to work with other partners that allow us to inherently, being part of this ecosystem, answer and respond to some of these areas that we want to represent as we're thinking through strategically how our agency is going to continue to evolve. And I think that one of the things that's super clear is that there is this speed to market, low cost option out there for many different agencies that wouldn't require this enormous undertaking, with the exception, of course, is if they're repositioning their company, which, as you mentioned, is the opportunity to reassess and analyze now. So it's super exciting. And I also, I get giddy about this because, one of the things that seem to be foundational is this human-centric quality that we have to maintain in how we oversee the workers. And there's a couple of, very large, tech companies, financial institution companies, and some of the CEOs that says, like, we are eliminating our call centers and replacing them with agents. And then you see how they pan out in 5 to 6 months. And they've had to bring in those people again so that they can answer the phone and handle very unique questions that we as humans do. So it's an opportunity to also learn from other use cases that may have not worked out well. But in any event, Ursula, I've had such a wonderful time talking with you. I know that we are going to be wrapping up today's show soon, but part of what we're doing in the spirit of AI is also asking you an AI generated question. So I want to throw one out you. This one comes from our friend ChatGPT. You may have heard of it, you may not. But here it is for you, Ursula. We went into ChatGPT and I said, I'm going to be interviewing the president of SIA, Ursula Williams, on a podcast. You already know, ChatGPT, what Leaders Unfiltered is about because you know me at this point. So it spit out this question to ask you. As AI and automation transform our industry, what's the only thing that humans can and must continue to do to keep the heart of the workforce solutions alive? The non-negotiable, the one that will never be replaced by AI.
I think that is truly listening, dealing with the people in the hard moments, the moments that, are not canned in what they really need. And I mean, with the owners of the company, the leaders of the company, their peer group, the talent, the hiring managers, and to have value in that, right? The tasks, let the AI do the tasks. The humans, what are the things that are unique? They don't come up all the time. They're people are individuals. So what are the individual situations? And Angela, I'm not saying AI can't do it. I've seen some amazing examples of AI that can pick up sentiment, that can hear your tone and your inflection and your pauses and your long sighs. But I think that the strategic work, the thinking about what drives value in the business, doing those things more in the day, right? Whether it's dealing with people, dealing with the strategy, analyzing business insights to take the business to a different place, not the repetitive, the tasks, the things that are already going, that can be done faster and more productive and in different time frames than the people can, but those things that aren't getting done. That's where I think the real value for the people. And I think that if we can hire people like that, if we can encourage people to be like that, the outcomes are just going to be so much better.
You imagine having a calendar filled with deep work, right?
Right.
So much of what we're doing, even now, with how technology complements what we're doing, is just answering teams, saying yes to this, doing that, and just having the opportunity to have a majority of your day be focused on deep work and how that deep work is defined uniquely into what you do and how you service that industry is truly the most exciting part of it all.
You just made me think of something. What's one thing that probably can't be created? Time. We used to have this joke about, like, if we could just figure out how to sleep faster, we would get more of our 24 hours, right?
Right.
So time is something we can't create. So to be able to use technology, whether it's AI, any kind of automation, to give back time, to do the things that, right, are more either deep thinking, deep loving, whatever it's going to be. I mean, all the executives and all the employees that spend Saturday to do the deep work that they didn't get to do Monday through Friday, they can go out and have fun, get rejuvenated, spend time with friends and family and play pickleball,
Yes. Shout out to the pickleball fans. I'm playing tonight.
All right.
Yes. Awesome. I think we just cracked the code on it on the podcast. Like, it is the value of time back.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's as simple and as complex as that. I love it. So, Ursula, that wraps up the show. There's a lot of different areas that I'm sure that we kind of got into, especially around this new, we thought about governance and policy in one way 24 months ago, and now it's taking on a whole new meaning. So I'm sure that you guys at SIA are going to be planning on a lot of wonderful topics like that, like the new world of governance in the state of AI. So I really want to encourage the listeners to check out the show and to have the opportunity to truly collaborate with others. So maybe you want to let us know a little bit about what we can do to register or just get more information about the show before we wrap up today.
Yeah, sure. www.collaborationx.com. It's the best domain. It'll take you right there. You get
I love the new name, by the way.
Thank you. X being next, and
Mhm.
go check out the speakers, because I think that's, we also go to conferences, right? Because who's there. So go see, including you'll see Angela and what it is that we're covering, and also please go to the sponsor page. You'll get a sense of all the different solutions that are there. You can click on those logos.
That's actually a great place to start.
Yeah, it's great, right? It takes you right to their website. And get registered. Like all conferences, prices go up and hotels get limited. So that's what should create your sense of urgency. And we definitely, we didn't get to hit on some of the compliance and some of the risk areas and the things to watch for, and the jobs that we created, the jobs that people are concerned about, our college graduates. I did see on the jobs report today, the teenagers, like they're having a hard time finding summer work and that type of thing.
Wow.
So we can, we'll talk about that in another podcast maybe, but a lot of that will be discussed at the event. And, we didn't talk about, we have a lot of resources. We have an entire tech stack toolkit. We have AI in the front, middle, and back. We actually just published the Mitigating Risk and Building Trust, responsible AI frameworks.
That is awesome.
Looking at it. So, there's a lot that will be coming, that is continue to evolve. But it's a really, it's an exciting time. I talked to some people, and they're just so excited to go change things, and they have already been changing things. I talk to people that are like, I don't know if it's for me. And then they come back and go, I found this one thing. I'm like, that's great. And then there are staffing companies out there that have already transformed. Wow. And they're growing.
They're
making it happen. And that is inspiring.
It is inspiring, especially because they're at the precedent of what is going to be the change. They're accelerating faster than many of the different clients that they service. Because they're a little bit more agile, and they're not as bureaucratic, and they're not as clunky to adopt and to make change, right? At that type of scale. So it's cool to see that these are kind of like the petri dishes of what to do for our state of the world right now, if you think about it. So a lot to unpack and uncover, and even more so, thank you for giving us the resources that we can tap into. I'm sure that we can link some of those out as we talk about where to find some information leading up to the show. Yep. And then also definitely check out the sponsors out there. We talked about what is going to be a place to start to understand the myriad of options. And that's actually one of the best places to start. And just knowing the space, I've been on those sponsorship places. It is a fantastic way to understand what's out there. So Ursula, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel like I could do one of these with you every week.
Yeah, we'll do Ask Fridays.
Yes! I love it. Well, we really appreciate you and everything that the SIA team is doing to bring us up to speed, especially with some macro trends that we see affecting the way that we think about how work and jobs are going to be done in the future. And also to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into today's show. We really appreciate you guys because, like you said, Ursula, time is one of those things that's the most valuable, if not the most valuable asset that we all have. So it means a lot that y'all spend some time with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I hope to see you all soon, maybe this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Leaders Unfiltered.